How are you? My name is Mark Singleton, and I am a pastor with New Breed Church, as well as West Louisville Director of Youth for Christ. And I wanted to do a quick devotion today. So we're in Colossians 1, verses 15 to 20. It says, He, talking about Jesus Christ, He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For everything was created by him in heaven and on earth, the visible and the invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him. He's before all things. By him all things hold together. He's also the head of the body, the church. He's the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so that he might come to have first place in everything, also known as preeminence. For God, verse 19, was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, and through him to reconcile everything to himself, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. And so just a couple things I wanted to point out. Really rich verse right here. First of all, it says, He is the image of the invisible God. We're talking about Jesus Christ here. He's the image, the physical representation of the invisible God. God came down from the highest of heavens, came down to earth, and dwelt among us. When we think of names like Emmanuel, which means God with us, we understand Jesus is not just simply a man. He is divine. He is God in flesh. The firstborn over all creation. He's over it. Creation is subject to him. When he was down on that cross, he had the power to pull himself down. When Satan tempted him, the reason it was a temptation was because he said, turn the stones to bread. He could have done it. That's what he had the capability of doing. For everything is created by him in heaven and earth, the visible and the invisible, whether thrones or dominions, rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. Get that? Through him and for him, all things have been created. He is before all things. By him, all things hold together. He's also the head of the body, the church. He's the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so he might come to have first place in everything. Just think about that. First place in everything. Which, by the way, shout out to the Indianapolis Colts. We do not have first place in everything. We, for whatever reason, just have we're right there on the fringes constantly, but we do not have first place in everything. Jesus does. So he might come to have first place in everything, that he might be preeminent. For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him. Jesus had all of the fullness of God dwelling in him. And so when we talk about Jesus being God, we talk about Jesus being divine, that he's a part of the deity, the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, 3 in 1, that he being one of the persons of God. When we talk about that, it's very important that we understand that Jesus on earth, the reason that he is so powerful, the fact that he was a servant, is because he didn't have to be at all. He did not have to serve. He came down to earth, and he could have came as LeBron and been big, strong, and mighty. He could have came and been Solomon and had more riches and splendor than we could imagine. He could have made Bill Gates look like a bum. He could have made Brad Pitt look ugly. He could have done all that stuff. But instead, he came down and took the form of a servant to show us what true humility really is. For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, through him to reconcile everything to himself, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood that shed on the cross. So here's what I think is really powerful about this, is the fact that God loved us so much that he dwelt among us. And he was born with a teen mom and a stepdad. He lived poor. He was he was a woodsman. He was a carpenter. Literally, you look at his life. I mean, what good comes from Nazareth? Like, that's the thing about it, is that everything you look at about Jesus was a joke. Yet he came down here for us, and for whatever reason. And then we look back in Philippians and we talk about humility. Just go back to Philippians 2 right here. Adopt the same attitude that is in Christ Jesus, who existing in the form of God did not consider equality with God a thing to be grasped, as something to be exploited. Jesus, if he can be humble, we can be humble. And so, whether or not you're dealing with the coronavirus stuff and you're scared, you're nervous, whatever it is, I get it. It's scary, it's rough. But in the same token, we do have to remember that God's going to take care of us. That he loves us. He loves us so much he would send his son for us. In our place, condemned he stood. He did that for us. And if he can do that for us, then something small and petty is having to stay in our homes during a virus outbreak, even if it's something where it costs us our lives, costs us our family, costs us our friends, costs us whatever, we can do that because we know that he did more for us. Thank you for this time. I know this is a short little message, but something I thought would be powerful and encouraging. You have a blessed day.